Welcome everyone to the Cardano Effect podcast, episode 11. The purpose of this podcast is to take high-level developer information and projects that are occurring within the Cardano sphere and break them down into bite-sized, consumable pieces of information for everyday use. I'm your host, Philippe, and let's get this podcast started. So, before we start this podcast, I just want to say that there are no special guests on this podcast. It's just going to be Sebastian, Rick, and I. This is going to be a laid-back episode, and we're going to be mainly talking about the year-end review of 2018 and moving on to 2019, what we can look forward to. So I want to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope that everyone was able to spend some time with family and friends. And I want to salute everyone who made it through 2018. I know that the year wasn't the easiest. The bear market has been rough for everyone. But eventually things will turn around. I don't know when, but if you made it this far, you've earned your stripes. It may get a little bit bumpier as we go through, but I think the end result will be a good one. I also want to do some, we have a fresh start for 2019 and we're moving forward in the right direction. So that's very important. I wanted to do some quick shout outs. So shout out to Christian and Kyle. They are helping us behind the scenes and we couldn't do it without them. You would be surprised to see how much work goes into this podcast. It's a lot of work, and the editing is a lot of work, and uploading it to all these different platforms, making sure everything is clean, getting our special guests. It's really a coordinated team effort, and Christian and Kyle are definitely the unsung heroes. And I would like to preface this by saying that we have a new YouTube channel, and this was started by Christian and Kyle. And this is called TCE clips, so the Cardano effect clips. So for all those commenters that want a shorter version of the podcast, we're listening to all your comments. So if you can't stick through this 1 hour episode or 1+ hour episode, we have short little clips from these episodes or short highlight reels, montages, so things that we're saying, things that our special guests are saying, and we consolidate them into small little clips. So if you'd go over to TCE Clips and subscribe to that channel, it would help a lot, and it could get a lot more notoriety for those clips channels for all those people that are looking for short abbreviated versions of the podcast. So like I was saying before, this is going to be a recap episode, and I also want to add that Sebastian's roadmap update video was great. I am so enthusiastic about 2019, and I think it was an amazing job of where Cardano is going. I'm very excited. This project is one of a kind. I was running the other day, and it's like I'm just so happy to be part of this project. It's our time. It really is our time, and this is not financial advice. This is not a price prediction video. This is none of that. I'm just concerned about the tech. The tech, we are going to be the best. I mean, we're going for that top spot. Our tech is going to be unmatched, and it's just a matter of time. The things that Cardano is working on, they just get more and more intense as the days go by. So I also wanted to say that if Cardano could be described in a math equation, I would describe it as y equals x to the third. And basically, we're hitting that inflection point and we're going upwards as far as our tech. I don't know about price because markets are manipulated, but we hit that inflection point and we're going forward. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rick. Rick, how you doing? Happy New Year. How were your holidays? How's everything?
Hi, Philippe. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I had really good holidays. Spent some time with the family and some time in town here in the Virginia area where my family lives. Thanks for asking. And I understand you had a vacation yourself. You went on a cruise down in the Caribbean. That's pretty nice to hear about. We talk about that later. I also wanted to do a shout out to our one listener from Iceland. So on our Libsyn feed, we do have a listener in Iceland. We have listeners on 6 continents. Our next goal is to get a listener on Antarctica, maybe. We'll see if that works out. And just a reminder to the viewers, we also have audio-only podcasts available on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud, fed by the Libsyn feed. We use the Libsyn feed, so it's also available directly on there. The purpose for having the audio only, as a reminder, since we're still early in the podcasts, is if you're working out or you're driving in your car or you're doing something where you might not have time to sit down and watch a YouTube video, we make the audio only available to you for your convenience. And we get a reasonable number of hits on there, but it's really for your convenience. So just a reminder that that's available to you as well. I also want to say hello to Sebastian from Japan. How you doing, Sebastian? You doing well, sir?
Yeah, doing good. It's a nice cold morning here in Kyoto, but it's always cold this time of the year.
Yeah, it's about like it is here in the Virginia area. Temperature's about the same, probably lower 40s and occasional rain, sleet possible. But anyway, so our year in review is what we're doing now. Now, Cardano's birthday was September 29th, 2017. And that was the start off, and we had about 3 months of good action there at the end of 2017. We start this podcast off at the beginning of 2018. So to kind of bring us up to that point in early 2018, so Cardano released to the public September 29, 2017. Cardano was a sleeper at first, those first couple of months. But then some YouTube videos started coming out, got people's attention. Bull run kicked in around late December or mid-December 2017. And so by early 2018, ADA was at like about $1.27. I don't remember what the exact all-time high was, but it was way up over, a little bit over $1 in January of last year. Now we're back down to about 4 cents as of today. So that's on the price side of the house. But most people are aware what that all-time high was. And then it kind of like bounced down the hill all year long from January until December, bringing us around to now, January 2nd. Today is Wednesday, January 2nd, that we're shooting this podcast. That was a little bit on the price. Now, on what actually evolved over the year 2018, we start off with, we had Daedalus 1.0. There were no other wallets out. We just had Daedalus 1.0 at the end of 2017. Then early in 2018, Cardano 1.1, I was calling it Daedalus 1.0, it was Cardano 1.0, and it had some special numbers for Daedalus. Then Cardano 1.1 came out in early 2018, and also the first roadmap update. So there was a roadmap out prior to January 3rd of 2018, but early January 2018, we had the first big roadmap update. Got everybody excited. That was also the height of the bull market whenever that update came out. So there was a lot of people learning a whole lot about Cardano at that time. Then the year played out. I have some notes here. Do you guys have anything you want to say for our startup of 2018 before I go through some of these notes, or you want to?
I think my first video on my channel was in January, something like that. So I was involved in Cardano before that, I think like October, November of 2017. But then my first video, if I remember correctly, uploaded in January. So that's when I officially got involved, I guess.
And now that you mention it, that was the primary source of information, because I would look at the roadmap updates and I'd read through information. And I can't remember when I watched one of your first videos, but then I went back through them and I was like, oh, he's doing updates. Like there were weekly updates and then there was about monthly updates. Was that about right?
Yeah, I was doing update videos every week, which now I just don't have time to do because they were very time consuming. It took me about a whole day to do every weekly update. So I get down on Saturday after work and just spend the whole day just like reading through all the code and everything, and then doing the update videos. But now I just stick to monthly.
And that was your own personal hobby at the time too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was still working on Microsoft at the time, and this was just on my spare time. I was doing Cardano stuff.
Yeah, cool. All right, so what we had for the beginning of 2018, Horizon, formerly Zencash, announced a partnership with IOHK, or IOHK's partnership with Zencash, January 2018. And the announcement was that the Horizon IOHK and IOHK partnership will entail an exciting series of research and development projects focused on building protocol-level decentralized treasury model and conducting a scalability study to ensure Horizon scales properly. So that was some of the big news early January. Also, IOHK announces the research to harden Cardano against quantum computers. Okay, so that's where a lot of the information started coming out on quantum resistance. And what else was it with quantum resistant signatures?
Yeah, I mean, so IOHK is still working on this. In fact, Charles made a tweet fairly recently saying they should have some results published in Q1. So if you're interested in quantum resistance, we should have some stuff coming out fairly soon, according to Charles.
Good stuff, like hopefully a research paper that explains how it's going to work.
And this is what Cardano excels at, future-proofing their cryptocurrency. I mean, this idea of quantum computing even existing, I mean, it may or may not exist within 10, 20 years, but just to think long-term like this, it just shows you exactly Cardano's plans. I mean, a lot of these other cryptocurrencies out there, they're not worried about 10 years from now. They're worried about, 10 days from now. And Cardano is worried about the future, which is a great sign. Great sign.
Yeah, and quantum computers actually exist now. There's 3 of them that I know of. There's a really good video on YouTube if you want to look that up. They're very small in the number of qubits that they use to process, but they do exist. They are there. Let's see.
Yeah, and also for the Horizon partnership you mentioned. So Horizon is a different cryptocurrency, and they've been working with IOHK on the Treasury model. And so the Treasury paper also came out in 2018, the formal paper which lays out a new way to do zero-knowledge voting systems on blockchains. And then so IOHK did the research, and then they passed that on to Horizon, who wrote like a blog post about the topic. So if you're interested, you can read a not-so-technical blog post. And then I think Horizon will basically try and do the draft implementation, and they're basically testing it out for us in a sense. So we'll have a treasury system for Cardano also in the future, and Horizon's kind of working with us to figure out all the technical details for the actual implementation. So that's progressing really well. I'm super excited to, progress towards a treasury system for Cardano.
Hey, that's great to know. I did something I was wondering about. You said it has zero knowledge. What was that again? Zero knowledge what?
Yeah, you basically you want to be able to tally the votes on an anonymous way, and that's basically what it's for. The paper is not super long. I think it's only like a 30 pages, something like that. So as far as research papers go, it's like an average length. So if you want to learn more about it, the paper is mostly about this construction and how it works and how it's safe within the scope of the treasury system that is built.
Okay, nice. Thanks for explaining that. All right, cool. So that's the Horizon endeavors. Now, also early in 2018, February 2018, Emergo partnered with CERN Labs to integrate ADA with the Symphony blockchain smartphone. So there was some work being done there, and I guess how that's going to work out is eventually the Symphony phone will support Cardano natively on the phone. The phone was released. I think it was released in November. I didn't get one. I'm an iPhone guy. I'm looking forward to that little card that Charles demonstrated that you read with your cell phone. So let's see. March 7th, 2018, Cardano 1.1 software was released. The announcement was that we are excited to announce they're extending Cardano. Oh, that was a separate one. But there was a separate announcement. They're extending Cardano to the Linux community and invite them to take part in the beta test. So that was in March, announcing the Linux. Where are we at now? Is the Linux out?
Yeah, Linux is officially supported as of the 2.0 update. So going forward, every release will also be available on Linux. One thing to note if you're a Linux user is that you will have to manually update. So if you're using Windows, whenever a new update comes out, there'll be a message inside data that says like press here to update. On the Linux client, that does not exist. So you'll have to manually update your client periodically. So that's the only thing to note. But this is maybe not super important because I think a lot of people that are running Daedalus on a Linux machine are often doing it for like a server to host some sort of system, but just something to keep track of.
Usually Linux users are a little bit more advanced, but basically the manual update is they have to go to the daedaluswallet.io website and download the new version. That's all, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Okay. Also, from March of 2018, the Cardano stake pool registration went live at that point. I think I recalled it ended in May, so it went about March through May. I don't think that was the permanent stake pool registration. I think that was for the testnet stake pool registration.
Yeah, so that was the registration that went on was basically for the testnet for Shelly that will hopefully launch within Q1, right? That's our goal. And so we're hoping to get the testnet for Shelly in Q1 and then releasing Shelly the on mainnet also in Q1. So the point of the registration was basically to see how many people will be interested in running a node on Shelly, right? Because as you may remember, the Cardano system can support thousands of stake pools, right? But it was not necessarily clear that we could actually get 1,000 people interested in running a stake pool, right? That was a legitimate question. Will we actually get 1,000 people interested, or are there only a dozen people actually interested in running a stake pool? And so, to be kind of conservative, IOHK was originally putting out 100 people, right? So if you go back last year and you look at the IOHK videos, they said we'll have a great stake pool system. There'll be 100 stake pools, something like that, because they were not sure if 1,000 was reasonable from a human perspective, regardless of how it works from a technical perspective. So to be safe, they said 100. But when they did the stake pool registration system where people could basically flag their interest in running a stake pool, they realized there's thousands of people that signed up. And so, okay, it looks like we can easily get 1,000 people legitimately interested in creating a stake pool, so we should go for 1,000. And so that's kind of the benefit that this poll gave us. And those people will be contacted for the testnet, the Shelly testnet that's coming up later in Q1.
Sebastian, do you know if anyone who is interested after the testnet date completed and interested in running a stake pool, can they still contact?
Yeah, my understanding is that it'll be open to anybody. Even if you missed the registration that happened last year, that's totally fine. I think it'll just be open for anybody to participate. That's my understanding.
Okay.
All right, thanks for expanding on that. Okay, another announcement from April of 2018 is that the first audit report of Cardano was released. The audit was carried out by FP Complete in conjunction with the Cardano Foundation. It is in line with Cardano's rigorous peer-reviewed research approach and the aim for transparency. So that's one thing that I'm very glad to have in the Cardano ecosystem, is that there is auditing by other parties. One organization writes the code, another organization audits the code. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm looking forward to more reports coming out later this year. That's all I have on the audit section. What do we got next, Philippe?
So next up, on April 26th of this year, of 2018, there was a release of the Ouroboros Genesis paper, and this is the paper that was going into proof of stake, and it was comparing. It started off talking about proof of work that Bitcoin does and exactly Cardano's ambitions to create this proof of stake protocol. Sebastian, did you want to add anything to the Ouroboros Genesis paper?
Yeah, also Ouroboros Genesis is actually what we'll be launching on Cardano. That's our goal. So engineers at IOHK have already started the implementation of Ouroboros Genesis and trying to work out all the details. You can check that out on the GitHub right now. And so Ouroboros Genesis is our provably secure proof of stake model. And so it's going to be really exciting to see this launch, hopefully in Q1, along with Shelly.
Great to hear. Great to hear. So moving on to May, we had the Cardano 1.2 release. So that took place in May. Okay, also in May 9th of 2018, there was the Transform Africa Summit, and IOHK was present, and they were meeting with heads of state and government and international organizations. I would recommend that you check out our Cardano Effect podcast episode with John O'Connor. He is the head of African operations, and he really goes into details of what Cardano seeks to accomplish in Africa. And he said that 2019 is a big year, and this is where they're trying to hit milestones. It's not like 2022 or 2025. They really want to transform things starting this year. So this is a big year for the continent of Africa and Cardano. So moving on from there, on May 28th, the KEVM testnet launched, and that is the Ethereum virtual machine, and it's backed by the K framework, so it provides an extra level of rigidity and security for developers to create their smart contracts using the Ethereum virtual machine. And like I said in a previous video, this was a great marketing tool for Cardano. People often ask, oh, why would you even go take the effort to actually build an Ethereum virtual machine when Cardano is supposed to be this much better in smart contracts? Well, this is the way to onboard as many developers as possible. You know, when you go to a car dealership and you test drive, you can test drive any car on the lot, and you know, it doesn't mean you're necessarily getting that car, but when you know you're ready to buy a car, you may contact that dealership again just because of the experience that you had with the previous test drives or previous experience that you had at that dealership. So that's what the analogy for KEVM is for me. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything to that.
I think the KVM has also been pretty successful. I mean, people are already actually using it to build their businesses. So Runtime Verification, the company that built the KVM, uses it to verify smart contracts. And now Maker, who's a separate company, is also using KVM and has written tools for the KVM to also verify smart contracts. And in fact, I think some people on the Ethereum Foundation are hoping to make the KVM the standard for Ethereum virtual machines, which really help us in our ecosystem, because the problem with KVM right now is whenever Ethereum makes an update, we have to spend the money and the time to update KVM to be on par. But if the Ethereum Foundation looks at the work IOHK does and goes like, you know what, this is just better than everything we've done, just go for it, then that really saves us a lot of trouble and will automatically always be compatible with the latest version of Solidity. So that means if that does happen, which will be helpful for both our ecosystems, both Ethereum and Cardano, that means that Cardano will be permanently compatible with any smart contracts written on Ethereum. And so we'll always be able to market ourselves as being like, hey, you wrote something on Ethereum, please come to our side. We have what we think is a better ecosystem. So I think it would be a great win for everybody and a great win for Cardano if that were to happen.
Follow-up question. So you said that Maker's using the K framework, the KEVM. Why don't you think, is this a political question? Why don't you think that Cardano's getting enough credit for this KEVM testnet? I'm sure that if another cryptocurrency created this, they would be touted as, wow, this is happening.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it is probably mostly politically driven. I mean, the people in the Ethereum Foundation are very much aware of the KVM, and they've been told multiple times that IOHK was by far the primary founder or primary funder of the research. I forget the exact percentage, but I think it's something like the 90%, like 95% was funded by IOHK. But then the people have like the 1% funding came from them. They claim like it's their thing, and then that more well aligned with people who don't like IOHK. And so there's a whole weird politics going on. But you know, I don't want to get into it too much. People in Ethereum, and they claim it's their creation. Be like, no, it was created by Runtime Verification in partnership with IOHK, and you know, try and set that record straight. And I mean, the Ethereum Foundation has now like ignored this fact. When they were at the ETC summit in South Korea, they gave credit to IOHK for creating the KVM and talked about how great it was on stage in front of a few hundred people. So they're not super shy about talking about it, but they're kind of which may be why they haven't fully adopted it as the standard for their platform.
Sebastian, can I get a brief synopsis from you on something? This will be an easy question for you. There's KEVM, and there's Yella, and there's Plutus. And these three different software components, they all perform a similar function, but they go about it in a different way. Can you give a brief summary of what is the KVM, what is the Yella, and the Plutus? What's the difference?
Yeah, sure. So KVM was basically our strategy for being compatible with the Ethereum ecosystem. Because a lot of people write their smart contracts in Solidity, despite the fact that Solidity is not that great of a programming language, and we want to be able to easily tell those people, hey, come over to our ecosystem and develop on Cardano instead, right? And the easiest way to do that is to tell them you don't have to change your code, it's just compatible as is. But as we were creating the KVM, we noticed there's a lot of stuff that was not well thought out or not well engineered inside the EVM. Okay, so we would like to fix all the problems that we found. But we can't do that because that would make everything incompatible. And we want to be able to tell people, hey, come to our platform. You don't have to change anything. And so Yella is like the KVM, but with all the problems we found fixed. Okay. And so that means that if you want to use Yella, we think it's a much better platform, but it means you'll have to change your code slightly. So if you go to the runtime verification GitHub page, you can see a list of changes that were made. And so you know exactly how to change your code to be able to run on Yella. So you can think of Yella as like the EVM v2, the improved version with all the weird stuff fixed and taken out. Okay, and then Plutus is completely separate on a parallel track, and that's to try and do a smart contracts and a functional programming sense. And so it's a very different philosophies written by different people, and we hope it'll attract a different kind of audience, right? So if you're somebody who has either done Solidity development or imperative programming, this kind of stuff, then you'll probably find a home in Yella because it'll be very familiar to you compared to what regular development you've done in your life. If you're a functional programmer and you want to join blockchain, but you like to develop smart contracts on a functional programming platform, then now we have an offering for you, and that opens up Cardano to market to the whole functional programming space. And this is also kind of a marketing advantage because we can say, hey, no matter which system you prefer, you have a home within our platform. And so that's kind of how the platforms work together.
So Cardano has all the bases covered between KVM, Yella, Plutus. You got everything you need.
That's the idea.
That's awesome. Very reassuring. Very reassuring. Great explanation. Great summary, Sebastian. And it still unnerves me that IOHK doesn't get the credit they deserve for releasing all of this. And instead, people just love to hate. But it's okay. Cardano's coming. But moving on. So on July 13th, for all the traders out there, people love this news. Coinbase announced that they were exploring the addition of the following assets to Coinbase, and Cardano was listed as one of them alongside Basic Attention Token, Stellar Lumen, Zcash, and 0x. It is January when we're filming this, and Coinbase still hasn't added ADA, but they did express interest. And Coinbase is a very weird, it's the platform that everyone loves to hate, but it has a very clean user experience. I use Coinbase, so I was excited to see that ADA could be potentially listed on Coinbase. I think that it's still possible in the future, but who knows when. Coinbase just seems to be adding tokens just to add tokens now. So I'm not sure if they have the same power that they did in the bull market. And the bearish market doesn't signify that even if a coin is added, it's going to have any effect on the price. But the more trading platforms we can get, the more exchanges we can get, and the ease of use of actually purchasing ADA directly with fiat, it's going to make it a lot easier. I know that Bittrex has a solution right now where you can wire money if you're in certain states. It doesn't work in the state I am, so you can purchase ADA directly with fiat. But making it a little bit easier for people to go straight from fiat to ADA, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think that Coinbase can offer that. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything about that, but we'll move on to the next news.
Yeah, at least Coinbase is still selective. They only have maybe 8 or 9 coins listed on there for fiat pairs, so it's not like they have 1,000.
Yes, but who knows? In the future, they may have the weight they're going. They may have 1,000, but we'll see. Time will tell. And then in July, later in that month, the Yella testnet launched. So we are excited to announce the IOHK launch of the second Cardano testnet, which is the Yella virtual machine, and follows the recent launch of the KEVM testnet. The technology is not only an important step for the Cardano roadmap, but also for the industry in offering robust and reliable financial infrastructure. Developers now have the opportunity to play around with the smart contracts technology that will eventually be offered as part of Cardano and to provide their feedback, which we look forward to receiving over the coming months. And that was a quote directly from Maki, and Maki writes some beautiful summaries and keeps the community informed on the Cardano forum. So make sure that you go over, if you see her around, make sure you send some appreciation, or because she does some great things within the community. So moving on, in August 15th of 2018, IOHK released Icarus to the Cardano community, so developers can now build their own light wallets. And their quote from IOHK is that we hope that this code base will be used as a point of reference to enable developers to create their own secure light and mobile wallets for Cardano. Icarus is a fully open source code base that will be the first step in a range of open source initiatives to provide developers with a suite of tools for Cardano. So in Charles's whiteboard video in 2017, at the end of 2017, he spoke about having solutions for offering ADA, or people can live within the Cardano ecosystem in underdeveloped nations that are unbanked. And this is all that initiative to move towards that. Lighter clients for people so they don't have to have certain specs on their computers to run. And hopefully in the future, we're moving towards being able to run it on mobile devices, and we're going to eventually be able to stake on those mobile devices. I don't know if Sebastian, you wanted to say anything else, but Emergo has been working well, and they released Yoroi, which is their light client and their light wallet. I don't know. You have any words for that?
Yeah, so for Yoroi, I would say check out our latest article and the progress update video, because I talk about it in more detail and we've written about it quite a bit. But the executive summary is basically, we hit all our roadmap goals. So we said we get the Firefox client, the mobile client, and then also Trezor support. And we hit all that all in Q4. So for mobile clients and Firefox, we still have to go through the approval process. But if you don't want to wait, you can go to our code base. It's Yoroi front end on GitHub, and you can build it from the source code already and run it on whatever platform you want. And so this is really exciting. I think going forward, I would hope that a lot of people that want to build light clients on Cardano that are currently using Icarus consider checking out the work that Yoroi is doing. So all our code is open source there also, and Emergo actively maintains it. And it's also open source, and we have public meetings every week. So if you're a company who's trying to build on Icarus or trying to build on Cardano, consider contributing code to Yoroi. We have a process for you to get involved. And even if you're not a company, you're just a regular programmer, you can also contribute code to our code base. We'd love to have you help us out.
Sebastian, you bring up a great point. I wanted to kind of summarize the software tools we touched on so far between Yella, KEVM, Plutus, and then Icarus. Just for the general audience knowledge, what IOHK and also Emergo, what they've done is they built the tools so that the developers can build the ecosystem. A lot of times when I work the forums, I'm a moderator for some of the forums, and people often want to know, what is IOHK doing to implement X, Y, or Z out in the general marketplace and out in the business. But the business and the market is more on the Emergo side. But the key is what IOHK has done this year during 2018 is they built the tools to empower developers to build the ecosystem. Pretty accurate summary, Sebastian?
Yeah, I think another thing that we released this year that is related to that is the Rust Cardano CLI. So it's a very easy to use client interface for kind of exploring the blockchain. So if you're a developer who wants to do analytics related to Cardano, you want to figure out how many transactions there are per blocks, what do those transactions look like, and all this kind of analysis. Cardano CLI is a perfect tool for you, super easy to use, super reliable, and really happy with the work the Rust team has done to create that. And also, people
Awesome.
are already using it. There's a few different websites that are like a Cardano analytics kind of stuff that they have charts and this kind of information, and a lot of them are using the Cardano CLI right now. So a lot of people are enjoying the benefits that it gives you.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so moving on, we had the Cardano 1.3 release in early August. So this carried some enhanced network enhancements and code refactoring and enhancements to Daedalus itself. And November 13th, we had a situation over at the Cardano Foundation where Michael Parsons resigned and Pascal Schmidt took over as chairman. So that situation was handled. And the Cardano Foundation is free. So all three entities, the IOHK and Emergo and Cardano Foundation, will be working together in 2019 to accomplish Cardano's goals. And there's no more friction and things are very smooth now. So moving on from there, we have it was announced in May 9th of 2018, but was launched in November of 2018. And this was the ADA integration on MedApps Plus, one of the largest mobile payment platforms in South Korea. And if you go on the Emergo Twitter, they actually have a short, I think it's like a 23-second video of someone actually going into, I believe it was a diner, and actually using their card to purchase whatever food that they were purchasing. And we talk about this in episode 1 and in various different episodes when mass adoption. And Rick, this is as close as you can get to buying a taco with ADA as possible. I don't know if they were selling tacos at that place, but if they were, mission accomplished.
That's what I'm interested in. When can I buy
Yeah,
a taco?
So the MedApp card is available in over 33,000 stores in South Korea. So I'm sure at least one of them sells tacos.
I gotta go to South Korea.
So, yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing more integrated. 33,000 stores, that's a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing more YouTube videos of people actually using it in real life. So whoever has gotten their hands on the card, upload a video or maybe contact Rick, Sebastian, or I and send us your footage or something so we can broadcast it to the community or broadcast it yourself. But get it out there. I mean, if you don't have a Twitter, if you don't have any social media platform, just send it to us and we'll try to get it out. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, definitely. Put it on a podcast.
Perfect. 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 Okay, moving forward, we have the Emergo Yoroi wallet launch in October, and the Trezor support was in December. So, I haven't, Sebastian, maybe you can touch into this. I don't have a Trezor. I have a Ledger, and I haven't bought a Trezor. I don't know if it's just because I've gotten very used to Ledger, but how's that experience, and have you toyed around with it already?
Yeah, so we got Trezor support first because the Trezor team finished the integration of Cardano first. Okay. And now that we have the integration with a hardware wallet in Yoroi, it's much easier to add a second hardware wallet because a lot of the code is reused. And so the Ledger team has announced that they will have the update that supports Cardano coming out fairly soon. They said in their next firmware update. So after that's done, then we have to do some more work on our side to add the support to it and then support it in Yoroi. But it should not take super long. I don't want to give any dates because then it's not up to me entirely. There's, it's depending on the Ledger side and a few other factors. So I can't give a concrete date. But we will hopefully see it, sometime soon.
Philippe, somebody on the forum compared the Trezor to a Tamagotchi. If you ever remember that little toy from maybe a decade ago.
I do. I had a couple Tamagotchis when I was really young. Yeah.
That was pretty funny whenever they made that analogy there.
Go ahead, Rick.
It's only Trezor Model T. There's another model. That one does not yet support Cardano. So Trezor Model T.
Trezor has two models. They have the Model T, which supports a variety of cryptocurrencies, including Cardano. And I think they have the Model 1, I think it's called, which only supports like Bitcoin and possibly something else. But so if you buy a Trezor, make sure to buy the Model T. We have a link within Yoroi and on our YouTube videos that is a referral link. So if you want to support the development of Yoroi and you want to buy a Trezor hardware wallet, then please follow the link. And this helps us grow our development team also.
Perfect, perfect. And I know people stick to sides in crypto, so there's Team Ledger and Team Trezor, and people usually stick to whatever hardware wallet that they first got introduced to. But pick up a Trezor Model T if you can, and if you can't wait. But Ledger support is coming, so
So one thing that I'd like the community to do also is a lot of people in the past have wanted to get into Cardano, but were waiting for a hardware wallet. Not just regular users, but also large groups, right? So there are certain groups that hold a variety of cryptocurrencies, and they usually only want to hold cryptocurrencies that can be safely stored on hardware wallets, for example. And so we need the community to kind of broadcast this information out there to all these groups, telling them, the individuals and the companies and the groups, saying, hey, if you were not involved in the Cardano ecosystem in the past because of concerns over hardware wallets, that has been addressed. You can use Yoroi right now with the Trezor T hardware wallet. And so please come get involved with our ecosystem, because the more people we can get involved in our ecosystem, the more decentralized we are and the better we are as an ecosystem. And so as Emergo, we've obviously put out press releases and as much information as we can, but nothing is better than doing the groundwork on an individual to individual basis. So we need the community to really go out and tell people about all the great work we're doing and the various platforms we support.
Well said, Sebastian. Thank you.
very well said. So moving on, we hit the Cardano subreddit, main Cardano Reddit, hit 70,000 subscribers in December. So that is a huge accomplishment. There's a lot of people that are interested in this project, and there's a lot of community support. And Reddit is a huge place. We have some official Telegram groups where there are a lot of members that are very active. We have members on YouTube. We have members on the forum. So this community is growing. And even if you go on, if you're familiar with any of the balance websites, so where you can check your ADA balance, if you check the UTXO distribution, the number is increasing. People are increasing the number of wallets that they're generating, and that just signifies more users. While the same user may have multiple addresses, there also are new users that are being onboarded into the system. And if you want to verify that, you can just go to any of the ADA, like you can go to adascan.net, you can go to Clio.one. It's great little sites that people have created that really give you the statistics behind your investment. So moving on from there, we have
another thing I like to say is, if in the spirit of proof of keys, consider moving your ADA off an exchange into possibly a hardware wallet such as the Trezor Model T. It's like they say, if you don't own the key, it's not your crypto. So if you have your ADA stored in an exchange, you never know what's happening. Nothing is as safe as holding your crypto with your keys.
Exactly. It's analogous to, if you have cash in your pocket, would you just hand it to some random person and say, hold this for me when I get back? You can give it to me. It's the exact same thing. You need to make sure that you secure yourself. I'm ready. When Ledger support comes out, I'm ready. I have Ledger Nano S's. I'm ready to shoot some videos and put a lot of stuff on this. So I'm ready. Get yourself ready. Get yourself a Trezor or a Ledger and get ready. I'm ready. I've been waiting. So
wow, Philippe, it looks almost like they sponsor you, but they don't.
They don't. No sponsorship here.
Yeah, we don't have one yet. Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, one of the two.
I like to have a little bit of fun sometimes. So Yeah. Yeah, Ledger, please sponsor us. Please sponsor us. That would be great. That would be great. Trezor too. You know, we have a little affiliate link on the bottom of our thing, but we'd like a nice full blown sponsorship. So moving on from there, we had Plutus Fest. So this is where the Cardano Effect podcast hosts met for the very first time in Scotland. We got to see each other for the first time. We got to see all the professors speak. It was a revolutionary event. They were speaking about Plutus. They were speaking about Marlowe and a lot of interesting things that Cardano is working on. I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience. I really have nothing to complain about the event. I came with even looking at it through a critical eye, I still don't see anything that went wrong. Maybe the worst thing that happened was maybe it was too short. I wish maybe it was a little bit longer. But besides that, I don't know. What are your thoughts, guys?
On the Plutus Fest?
Yes.
I have all good things to say about it. The experience was amazing. I learned so much stuff. I met all kinds of great people. And plus we had a nice dinner afterwards down there at that place called Under the Stairs up there in Edinburgh, Scotland. So if you feed me, I give you a good review. All right.
Had the 1 year anniversary for Cardano in 2018 also, and that was held in Japan, in Tokyo. And at that event, we had a few hundred people join. And then Plutus Fest, which was also in 2018 in December, was in Scotland, where we also had a few hundred people join. And we'll have more events planned in 2019. But it's great to see that not only are we having more events organized, but for every event, we're getting really great turnout. So it really shows the amount of people that are involved in the ecosystem or want to get involved. And so I hope that this is a good indication of the turnout for future events, and also a good indication of meetup group turnout. So I hope a lot of people start organizing meetup groups around the world and start having conversation on a local scale about Cardano and the work we're doing.
Very good point. Very good point. I think going to this event, I don't know. I mean, Sebastian, you've been meeting people for a while, but this was my first time meeting people actually within the community. And, you know, you often get, Rick, I don't know if you want to add to this, but, you know, we make YouTube videos, and while we get a lot of interaction, seeing people face to face and seeing how passionate people are is a completely different experience. And you see people from all walks of life, from all these different countries, all these different places, all these different stories, and they seem to have converged into a similar experience, or they share the same passion as you. It's really incredible. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, guys, but that was important for me.
I love how the crypto transcends international boundaries. It doesn't know the boundaries of countries. It doesn't know any language barriers. It kind of brings it all together. And I think that's what the really cool thing I got out of it.
Yeah, I think seeing all these really excited people really wants me to tell them, like, get involved. There's so much going on in our ecosystem, but it can always grow more. If you're watching this podcast and you're a developer or a content creator and you want to get involved in the Cardano ecosystem, like, and now's the time to do it, right? We're right on the border of getting Shelly out the door. Now's the time to get involved, build your name recognition, build your brand. And once Cardano, you know, starts being the decentralized ecosystem that's, you know, taking over the blockchain space, you'll be there in the forefront. So.
Yeah,
sounds good.
That's good to put that out, man. People need to be aware of that. Thanks, Sebastian. That's good info to be putting out. Make sure they know.
Definitely.
You don't want them to miss the bus. You know, that's why I do YouTube videos on my other channel. It's like I don't want people to miss the bus. Anybody that knows me, you know, we all know we heard of Bitcoin maybe in 2011, but we didn't touch it. Might have got into it in 2013. And now what people are saying is, oh yeah, Bitcoin, I missed that bus. Well, with Cardano, you can't miss the bus. Right now is a really good time to get involved, at least if you're an investor, right?
Yes. No, I agree with that, Rick. I agree with that completely. And people often think that they can't get involved because there are other people doing this. But just like this project is open source, if you're a content creator, this stuff is open source too. So there could be multiple people doing similar things, and everyone has a different, unique spin on things. People come to watch me, but some people don't like me. Same for Rick, same for Sebastian. You know, I mean, you're going to have people that like certain styles and critique certain styles. I mean, some people didn't like Lord of the Rings, you know, even though it was a masterpiece. But, you know, it is what it is. I mean, there may be some other people that are watching other movies. And I just think that there's enough space for everyone to find their niche and do what they need to do. It doesn't have to be just, you know, these people, or, you know, you feel like you're boxed out. So, you know, if you're sitting watching this podcast, like Sebastian says, and you feel like you can contribute, then now's the time to do it. And I think the Cardano community will support you, to tell you the truth.
Hey, you know what, Philippe, and I'm glad you brought up the community involvement, because I'm not the community involvement, but content creation, because some of the most recent news that brings us to the end of 2018, the end of December, it has been a lot of work. While we're on holiday, the people at Emergo IOHK and the Cardano Foundation have all been working very hard. Even the last couple of weeks of December, Maki Mukai put out the Ambassador Program. That's now out, and there are several different ways you can get picked up for the Ambassador. There's details on the Cardano forums to go to there to look up the details. But there's Ambassador roles for moderators, content creators, meetup organizers, and there is a fourth one. I don't remember what it is, but if you create content, you moderate forums, you organize meetups, you can get involved. If you meet certain criteria, you can get recognized as being on the Ambassador Program. And there's more details on the Cardano forum for that. Also, Emergo and IOHK have both been very busy at the end of December, at least, you know, information coming out. IOHK released a paper on proof of stake. I haven't read it yet. I understand what proof of stake is. I don't know what all the details are, but that paper just recently came out. And Emergo was also still very busy because they had a couple of releases at the end of the month. Sebastian, did you want to go into some of the other last couple of weeks, the stuff that came out?
Yeah, so we put out the Trezor update. That was our biggest thing, right? And that also includes the mobile version, the Firefox support that we've been actively working on throughout the month of December. Another thing that's exciting that I want to flag to everybody is now that we've finished our Q4 roadmap for Yoroi, we have to start thinking about what we want to do in Q1, Q2, Q3, and you know, what we want to do going forward. And so obviously internally we have a bunch of stuff we want to do, but we also want to open it up to the community. So Yoroi is open source, as I've mentioned multiple times, and actually on our GitHub repository, we have a template for how to make a feature proposal. And so if you want to propose a feature, it's open to anybody. In fact, some members of the community have already made feature proposals. So the feature proposals are technical in nature. You can't just like say, you know, one ledger and that's it. That's not going to go through. It needs to say like, I want to do this. This is why I want to do it. This is how competitors did it. It's an analysis of a few different ways we could do it. And this is why I think we should take this method. So it's a technical document. But we want to basically use this process to find out what the community wants us to do going forward. And so probably shortly, possibly already by the time this video is released, have announced an ideathon. And so we'll basically have 3 days for anybody in the community to make a feature proposal for Yoroi. We'll review all those feature proposals, and then we'll have a triage meeting that will be public and recorded, where we discuss the different features that were proposed and what we think of them. And so we'll use what we want to do internally, plus what the community suggests, to try and draft up our roadmap going forward. And so I think this is a great way for any developer who's interested in contributing to Yoroi to start thinking about an idea, start writing out the specification for that idea, and get involved in the development.
Sebastian, awesome. Thanks for putting that information out. That's very important, getting that user feedback on what they want to see in Yoroi. For example, a button. that does a certain thing, or graph, or a network design like we did in a previous video where we saw an example of what that would look like. Those are the kind of things that you would need feedback on. Something that will round off decimals for you, like features like that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so any feature is fair game as long as you write a technical document about how to implement it and why you think this implementation is best. Because if you make a feature proposal that is not technical in nature, then that means we have to do the investigation as to whether or not this is worth it. And we're super busy. We have to read the code and all these other features we're working on. And so probably your feature proposal will not go through. But if you have a very well-written proposal that says exactly what you want to do, why you think it's worth it, why it's the best way to do this, then it's much easier for us as the development team to read it, make sense of it, approve it, and then start the implementation.
Good to hear.
Is there going to be a template or format on that website?
Yeah, so we
that
have a
says
template
fill
already.
out
We have a template already, along with a document that outlines how to use the template, how to make the feature proposal, and how our triage process works. Probably as we release as we start announcing the ideathon, we will also have a short YouTube video that shows people how to create a feature proposal. That way people can watch the video, see how it works. It's a very simple process, the actual creation of the document. The hard part is figuring out, the actual technical information put in the document. But the actual creation of a proposal is fairly easy, and we'll have a YouTube video that explains how to do it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So moving on, we have a couple more things on the list of events that happened, the list of significant accomplishments that happened within 2018. So one of the biggest ones was the IOHK releasing Cardano 1.4 or dataless, the Cardano settlement layer 2.0. And this was December 18, 2018. And basically, this was addressing a lot of the issues that were in previous dataless versions as far as the syncing time. So basically everything that was done for 2.0 was on the back end, so you wouldn't see it in the user interface part, but there was a lot of work that was done behind the scenes to address some of these issues. And I'm still getting comments on my YouTube about people having issues trying to get to this new version, but stay patient. There is a portal where you can go to, it's like the FAQ portal on the Dataless Wallet site, and it has some common solutions. So whether your internal computer clock is off by 20 seconds or so, and you need to fix your internal time, or you have issues with your deleting your DB 1.0 folder, a lot of different tutorials and FAQs are on that site. I have a couple troubleshooting videos on my YouTube as well. And Rick, you have some stuff as well. So you just check it out and keep on contacting and stay vigilant. The important thing is for you to understand how this process works, and it will work for you eventually. It will work for you eventually. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything about that, but
I've got a quick summary that I can put out there on the Cardano releases. So Cardano 1.0 and 1.1 it got a mainnet out there, and a lot of people were asking when mainnet was out from September 29th of 2017. So 1.0, 1.1 mainnet. Cardano 1.2 introduced paper wallets. Cardano 1.3, the first version of 1.3, introduced network and performance enhancements. It communicated faster, and there were less resources consumed on a computer. And at that point also, there was a lot of code refactoring. The original code from Sarah Kell that was in the 1.1 and 1.0 versions was starting to be removed and replaced with new code. And then there was a second version of 1.3, which was kind of like the soft fork. And that brought the smaller file system. That took the 10 gigabytes of storage of the blockchain and put it down to 200 and some megabytes where it belongs. So both versions of 1.3, you had some performance gains in some way, network and memory on the first one, and CPU usage on the first one, and then file storage consumption and proper storage of the blockchain with that 1.3, and then oh no, wait, that wasn't the second 1.3, was it? That was with 1.4. 1.4 actually reorganized
Yes.
the blockchain and stored it in 200 megabytes or less. The 1.3 was the second version of 1.3 was just a soft fork or something like that. Well, do you remember what
It
the
was
second?
introducing the testnet.
Oh, introducing the testnet to where instead of having to log into a central internal testnet, you can join the testnet from a node on my computer. And correct? Is that how it worked?
The Cardano testnet website. There's one of the boxes that is now just Cardano testnet. That's the name. I think it's a bad name, but it's not very descriptive. But it's called Cardano testnet. Allows you to basically download it, sync on the testnet blockchain, and then try your hand developing software without any risk of losing actual money.
Okay, so
that was enabled in one of the versions of 1.3, but it was not publicly announced until 1.4, and then the official launch was released with 1.4. So although it was compatible starting in 1.3.3 or something like that, that was only an internal release and just to test things out, and then it officially shipped with 1.4.
Okay, so we had 4 major updates throughout the year. That looks like 1 major update per quarter. I don't know if we'll expect to see that next year. Any ideas for the year 2019? We're going to see maybe an update per quarter. We know it's possible because IHK has done it.
Well, we'll have the Shelly testnet and mainnet in Q1. That's the goal. Going forward, we'll be implementing the proof of stake sidechains paper to be able to get the connection to the CL, and so that will be another drastic change. I'm not sure exactly when that will happen because that requires a fairly large amount of work, and we're currently focusing on Shelly. But it will definitely be this year, maybe Q2, maybe Q3. We'll see what happens once all the Shelly stuff gets sorted out. And then Q4, I don't know what will happen, but we are working on the treasury system. And so the treasury system and the voting proposal will also probably come out this year. That's the goal, at least. And so we're hoping that, by the end of the year, if everything goes well, we'll have a voting system, a Cardano improvement proposal. And if we're lucky, we may get the treasury system also, but we'll see what happens. Because I think with Shelly and with the Cardano computation layer, we have our hands full. But this is me kind of speculating as an Emergo employee, right? Charles will be able to give a much better estimate based on the resources they have at IHK. So wait for Charles' announcements about tentative dates of various things. But I'm just kind of laying out a draft idea of what people may expect and can kind of look forward to as we go throughout the year.
Awesome. I wanted to touch onto the couple of last things that we need to cover. So there were Cardano meetups and talks in London, Singapore, Moscow, Warsaw, Bogota, Palo Alto, San Diego, Mongolia, Croatia, Netherlands, Nigeria, Iran, and more all over the world. And I think that's going to increase this year, 2019. Cardano Foundation is going to really ramp it up and really allow for the development of meetups, including Emergo and IOHK as well. They're going to be working as a team to make sure that the community is able to host more meetups and people are able to meet face to face and discuss Cardano in better ways. And then also some exchange listings on some smaller exchanges like Cryptopia, BitHum, UBS, Huobi, HitBTC, BitMEX, BitStranex, and multiple different exchanges. So to tell you the truth, I think that we're considering our ranking on CoinMarketCap, we probably have the fewest exchanges out of the other coins, to tell you the truth, which is kind of a good sign because we're this high with these few exchanges. So maybe when we get into more and more exchanges, it may or may not affect the price. But that's that. And I also wanted to touch on, in your video, Sebastian, the revamped Symphony of blockchains. I think that the new versions are improving. You know, I would recommend, if you haven't checked out the Symphony of blockchains, you know, get yourself some noise canceling earphones, you know, dim the lights and just focus on your computer or your monitor. It's really a beautiful thing. Sebastian, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I think it's super exciting projects. I think something we've noticed as a cryptocurrency space, it is really hard to explain how blockchains work, right? You go to somebody and you tell them how Bitcoin works with proof of stake. It's not the most difficult thing. Usually after, you know, an hour or so of explaining the system and maybe drawing on pen and paper, they'll kind of get the idea. When it comes to proof of stake, which is a newer construction, also a much more complex construction, people often get lost in the details. They're not sure how things are working. And so we really need a web page where we can just send people to and say, go to this website, check it out, it'll explain everything. And they go to the link and they can play around the blockchain, see how the epochs work, see how the slots work, how transactions work, how the mempool works, and have that all click in for them. I think this is really important to be able to convince people of the correctness of the system, right? So a lot of people have their doubts about cryptocurrencies, and they really want to make sure everything is working. And this is a great way to be able to easily show them how the system works in its entirety. And so that's why I'm really excited about the Symphony project. And I hope IOHK will deliver an amazing product sometime in 2019 that really does a great visualization of the Ouroboros system.
Rick, have you checked out the Symphony of blockchains?
I saw the first version.
Okay.
I did not see the most recent version that just came out. No, I saw the demos. I saw videos of the demos, but I have not seen the real one. And if it's better than the first version, I'm sure it's pretty amazing.
For Cardano, it's just videos right now. There's no public release of it yet, but that will come out in 2019.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, I also wanted to see what you guys thought, but, you know, doing an overview of 2018, Charles Hoskinson is obviously the CEO of IOHK, and he is a very vocal member of the community. Comparing to other crypto projects, he is probably like the most present within the community compared to other projects. You have a lot of other CEOs and figureheads of other cryptocurrency projects, and they're kind of in the distance. You don't really hear from them, but you really can communicate with Charles, which is something that I really appreciate. I really enjoy. And he did a Cardano 2018 review wrap-up that IOHK just released. Beautiful, beautiful, very inspiring. But another thing is that Charles is the CEO of IOHK, but as much as Cardano is his project, it's also Sebastian's project, it's also Rick's project, it's also Philippe's project, it's everyone in the community's project. You have as much influence on that project as he does. I mean, I know he's running IOHK, but this system is going to become decentralized. It's really going to be put in the community's hands, and it's really all of our projects. So you have just as much stake. It's not about the amount of ADA that you hold, but it's about like the passion and what you're contributing to the community. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I think that's a very important point. I think over 2018, people have constructed a mentality of first party versus third party. If it's made by Emergo or IOHK, this is a first party system. And if it's created by anybody else, it's like a third party or a community project. And as we get closer to decentralization with Shelley, we have to get rid of this idea, because there will no longer be a first party and a third party in a community. We're all in the same boat, playing by the same rules in a decentralized ecosystem. And so I hope people will be more willing to give a chance to new people coming into this space. And I think people will have to spend a lot more time proving their trustworthiness to the ecosystem. I think this is a very healthy thing. And I think it will have to be a change of mentality by the community, because we'll have to stop using words like third party and first party and community run, because we will all be the community. Everything is community run. Everything is third party. It'll no longer be a first party. And so we need to transition our mentality as we also transition our software.
Hey, I'd like to put in a nice plug for the community work moving forward as well. Also, there have been some very nice, helpful, friendly people on Telegram. I'm one of the admins, so I kind of like take some responsibility for doing it. But there's other people who are not admins; they're just other community members. Who a new person shows up on Telegram, and in the last week, Charles helped guide people into the correct Telegram channels. So we got a lot of new members, and as these new members started showing up in the Cardano general Telegram channel, the other community members who were there, they'd introduce themselves, they'd help them out, they would help explain things. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a very good sign to see people just helping others out as we're getting a lot more new people into Cardano General. And I think as Cardano success increases over the next year, you're going to see a lot more people. Right now, we're at about 6,000, I could probably look it up, people in the Telegram channel. The Telegram channel is actually a very good place for community involvement because it's real-time, active interaction. Along with the forum. Right now, there's 6,342 members. So that's more than up over 1,000 from last week. I remember looking at it was at 5,000 and something just over a week ago. So a lot more people in there, and I expect more to be arriving over the next year. So Telegram, and the official channel is, not official, but the proper channel is Cardano General. That's the channel you want to be in. And Cardano tech support if you're having problems with the wallet and you want to get those sorted out. And there's some really good help. I got to give a shout out to Priyank in the Cardano technical support channel. He has been doing a fantastic job helping people out in there. I mean, just off the charts, phenomenal job. Having people check logs or just talking them through the troubleshooting process. So really good work from the community, guys. Thanks for all of your participation. I really appreciate it. So, Philippe, are we going to go on to what do we have for 2019 resolutions? You said something about that earlier.
Yes. And I was just going to add quickly, if you're new to crypto and you're just finding Cardano and you want to join and you really want to learn more, but you feel intimidated because you go into these big groups with people with maybe a little bit more knowledge about what's going on within Cardano, just reach out to people. Most people are friendly, and if you get unfriendly responses, that's you don't need to worry about that.
It's just how the internet.
Everywhere. Exactly, but you'll find
that's
people
just the internet.
Exactly. And I know people are coming in day one. They still don't understand how to buy crypto on Coinbase, so it's a learning process for everyone. We're not judging anyone, and everyone has to start from somewhere. But that being said, we are wrapping up this podcast. I wanted to do a quick New Year's resolution for all three of us. Maybe Sebastian, we can start with you. So what's your New Year's resolution? You could just say your regular New Year's resolution and then your New Year's resolution within Cardano. What do you expect to achieve, or what do you want to achieve?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. There's so much stuff I want to do this year. But I think probably my New Year's resolution is to go over all the research papers by LHK. So right now, if you go to my YouTube channel or the Emergo YouTube channel, I have various lecture series on certain papers, and I have a huge backlogs of papers I have to make videos for. I don't have to, but I really want to make videos for. I think it's super important for the content of these papers to be accessible by the developers and the community in general. And also, I really want to be able to make a video going over them. But this is a huge time commitment. Stuff like Ouroboros, the papers so far, there's 4 papers, and they span something like 200 pages in total. So going through the paper is one thing that takes time, But going through the paper, annotating the sections and coming up with explanations for all of them, and then recording the video is a super lengthy process. And I try and find as much of my spare time as possible to put into making these videos. And hopefully I can find more spare time out of thin air to make more of these going forward.
That sounds good, Sebastian. Did you have is that both a personal and a professional New Year's resolution?
Yeah. I mean, I did these before joining Emergo because I really like them. Now that I'm part of Emergo, it is still a personal thing because I think it's a lot of fun and very valuable. But it's also a business thing because it's a great marketing material for the community. A lot of the video lecture series I've made get views in 1,000 views, something like that, which is really mind blowing to me. Because if you made a video about some random math paper, usually you get 10 views, maybe you plus some other PhD student that might reference it at some point. But the fact that cryptocurrencies has gotten thousands of people interested in these very technical academic topics is just mind blowing to me. And so I think this is great marketing value for Emergo and our Cardano community in general.
Rick, it's your turn.
I'm on hot seat. Okay, so two things that I'd like to accomplish in 2019. Number one is I would like to attend a community meetup. I would sum it up. What I do is I travel a lot. So usually from the end of January through the end of November, I'm on travel probably 80% of the time, excluding December and January. So I would like to get to a community meetup. And I go to San Diego a lot, Everett, Washington, a couple other places, and even Japan. So maybe I'll be able to catch one out there.
My New Year's resolution, I need to drink some more water. Need to stay hydrated. When I'm drinking water, I'm extremely alert. So definitely going to try to up my water game. On the Cardano side, I guess I have a couple resolutions. One would be to either host a meetup or attend a meetup by year's end. I don't know if I have the time right now, but maybe later on in the year, I'd like to host an event because that would take a little bit of planning, and I definitely would like to do something like that or travel. I want to meet more people in the community. It's really awesome to meet everyone. I think that's great, and also maybe on the trading side or the technical side, maybe FOMOing less. I think I've been doing a great job as of late, but this is not financial advice. But I'm never satiated by the amount of ADA I have. Every time I hear a talk, every time Charles gets on another live stream, it's just bad for me. So I FOMO. So I'm gonna be working on that this year, and hopefully I can fix that. And I don't know. Those are my New Year's resolutions. I want to thank you, Sebastian and Rick. We're going to wrap this episode. Went over a little bit over an hour. And thank you, everyone, for staying with us throughout 2018. 2019, I made a video about this. This is the year of Cardano. I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about tech. We have smart contracts releasing. We have Shelly releasing. A lot of things are happening in 2019. We're going for the neck in 2019. I think it's time. To tell you the truth, I'm scared because I feel like the window is closing in, and there's so much that needs to be done in such a short period of time. I've never seen such. This space is so new, but it's developing so quickly, and before we know it, things are going to be implemented, things are going to be developed. Of course, it's always going to be a dynamic process, but eventually the plateau of creativity and innovation is going to plateau at some degree. Right now, we're going up that inflection point on that y equals x to the third. But once we get to the top, it's gonna slow down a little bit. So I want to make sure that I accomplish everything that I want to accomplish before then. So anyone that wants to feel like they want to contribute, really now is your time. It's crunch time. Quarter 4, you need to step it up, and we're willing to. We want as many people in the community as possible. I love seeing new faces, and it's very interesting. Looking forward to 2019. Rick, Sebastian, you can have the final words. If not, we can sign off.
Thanks for a great podcast, Philippe, Sebastian. Y'all have a great day, guys.